So today we will be having a trial. And the question that we will be answering and try to figure out and get to the bottom of is it ethical to plant an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge? So what does that mean? Well, we would be influencing someone's thoughts without them realizing it. To decide this case, I brought in 3 judges: John Stuart Mill, Immanuel Kant, and Aristotle. Each one will judge the case using a completely different method, and let's see how they do. Hello, I'm Judge Mill, and I only care about one thing, and that thing is happiness. So, step 1, what is good? Happiness is good. We love happiness.
Order in the court.
Now, what's bad? Well, in this case, it would be unhappiness. So it'd be pain, suffering, anything that makes you sad.
Order in the court.
Now, let's assess our options. We have 3 options that are currently available to us: secretly planting the idea, suggest the idea openly, or do nothing. So we don't tell the person anything. Now, which one of these options are actually possible in this scenario? In this case, all of them. The plaintiff could do anything. Now, let's look at the consequences of these options. Allora, will you go ahead and list those consequences for us? Not a problem. So, the consequences of these actions, let's break it up into 3 chunks that we already talked about. If you secretly plant the idea, it might help the person, but you're also manipulating them. The worst case scenario in this situation is that they find out and all this trust is broken. They are no longer your friend. Now let's look at the other option. If you suggest the idea openly, look at the benefit. Now they chose it themselves, so you're not taking away their autonomy. They're able to make their own decisions and their own choices. That builds trust instead of damaging it, because you're suggesting something as a friend or as someone who cares about them. And the third option is you do nothing. Now, there is no harm, but there's also no benefit. So when we compare everything, secretly planting the idea causes more harm than good. Now back to Mill. Thank you. Now the 6th step is choosing the action that has the greatest amount of happiness. Now I don't only have these 6 steps, there are also secondary principles. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Now in these secondary principles, the one that stands out the most in this situation is being truthful and being fair. Now, being truthful. If you plant an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge, that's not really truthful. It's not that person's true thoughts, and you're not telling them that you did this. So, it's without their knowledge and without their consent. And if you don't tell the person, then this causes mistrust, especially if they find out, which would break this secondary principle. So, Judge Mill, what's your verdict? Planting an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge is unethical. Alright, moving forward in the succession, now we'll switch over to Judge Kant. Now, unlike Mill, I have different rules and different things that we need to follow. First thing is being logic. I am all about logic. And I have this little tool here called a maxim. So what is a maxim? A maxim is the initial decision you are going to act upon before you truly decide what you're going to do. So in this case, the maxim would be, I will plant an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge. Now we have to think about what would happen if everyone did this across the world. So it becomes universal. If you see that there's no problem and no conflict with that maxim becoming a universal law, then it is ethical. But if you see that the maxim has a lot of conflictions, there's a lot of problems with it, then it cannot become universal law, meaning it's unethical. So let's think about this. If everyone were to put an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge, no one would have any original ideas anymore. People wouldn't have creativity. They wouldn't be able to think for themselves. There'd be no autonomy. Therefore, if everyone were to do this, it just wouldn't work. Chaos would be everywhere. And that's one thing about me. I don't like chaos. But let's say that we did make this a universal law. And now it's a law of nature. Now everyone can put an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge. Now we have to go to step 4, checking for contradiction. Allora, would you go ahead and list those contradictions for me? Alright, so what are the contradictions with putting an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge? Well, for one, it destroys rational thinking completely. You wouldn't be able to trust your own thoughts in those ideas where you wouldn't be able to tell if those were actually yours or someone else's. There would be no... You cannot 100% say that those are your thoughts, meaning that someone else could take control at any moment. And this just makes everything that we know about thinking completely unravel. Therefore, there's a big contradiction, and the system breaks down. And also, who wants to live in a world where they can't think for themselves? I don't think anyone wants to do that. Alright, thank you. Now, similar to Judge Mill, I would rule this unethical. Alright, so now that we know the perspective from both Mill and Kant, let's switch it over to Judge Aristotle. Judge Aristotle, what do you have to say about this idea? Now, I'm a little bit different than Judge Mill and Judge Kant. I believe that the most important thing is your character, who you are as a person. And I have 8 steps to determine what you should do in a situation. So step 1, what is happening? What is going on? What is the topic at hand? What are we dealing with? What is the problem? And that problem is someone is secretly influencing another person's thoughts without their knowledge. Now, what kind of action would this be? This would fall under manipulation and deception. Now, what does this mean? What does this remove? This removes trust, honesty, autonomy, and well-being. And step 4, what virtues matter most in this situation? Honesty, respect, fairness. And what are the vices? Manipulation and deception. And then step 5, is this action wrong by nature? And yes, because it involves manipulation. You're making someone else have to choose and do something that they wouldn't normally do if it weren't for you. So in this case, there is no bodily autonomy, there is no mind autonomy. You have no way for you to speak for yourself. So there is no middle ground. And step 7, does this help people flourish? And the answer is no. It damages trust, weakens relationships, and it takes away someone's control over their own mind. Whoa, Aristotle, let's calm down a little bit. Let's reel it back. Order in the court. Sorry, I got a little bit carried away. But going back, step 8, what would a wise person do? A virtuous person would be honest, and they wouldn't secretly manipulate someone. So, what do I rule? It is unethical. So in this case, all 3 judges agree that it is unethical to plant an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge. Mill says that it causes more harm than happiness. Kant says it breaks rational rules, and Aristotle says it shows bad character. So, different reasons, but the same conclusion. Overall, it's just bad. You shouldn't do it. So, planting an idea in someone's mind without their knowledge is unethical. Case closed.